In the heart of Texas, where the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold, stood the sprawling Oakwood Ranch. It was here that Sheriff Jake Tanner and ranch owner Emily Hayes forged a bond that began in their childhood. Growing up side by side, they spent countless summer days chasing fireflies and sharing dreams beneath the vast, starlit sky. Their friendship blossomed into deep affection during their teenage years, a connection that felt unbreakable. Jake, with his strong build and gentle smile, took pride in serving their small town. The badge he wore was a reminder of his dedication to keeping everyone safe. Emily, on the other hand, embodied the spirit of the ranch, fierce, independent, and fiercely protective of her land. She had always admired Jake's sense of justice and unwavering loyalty. Yet, as they reached adulthood, their paths began to diverge. Jake's commitment to law enforcement often pulled him away from the ranch. He faced tough choices daily, choices that sometimes meant letting go of those he cared about. Emily struggled with feelings of abandonment as Jake's duties took precedence over their once inseparable bond. Despite the distance that grew between them, both held fond memories close to their hearts. Little did they know that one fateful decision would lead to Jake leaving the ranch for good, setting off a chain of events neither could have predicted. A decision that would complicate everything they thought they knew about love and loyalty. The Oakwood Ranch sprawled across the landscape like a painting, with rolling hills and tall, swaying grasses dancing in the breeze. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the fields where wildflowers bloomed in vibrant colors. It was a place of beauty, filled with the sounds of nature, birds chirping, crickets singing at dusk, and the occasional rustle of leaves in the gentle wind. Nestled far from the bustling town, the ranch offered a sense of peace and solitude that Emily cherished. Each morning, she would rise early to watch the sunrise paint the sky in brilliant hues of pink and orange, a sight she felt belonged solely to her. The isolation provided an escape from the world's worries, but also served as a constant reminder of her loneliness whenever Jake was away. As much as she loved her land, its remoteness sometimes felt like a prison without Jake by her side. The long stretches of quiet echoed her heart's longing for their companionship. She spent many evenings wandering through the pastures, reminiscing about days filled with laughter and adventures shared with him. But now, those memories were tinged with sadness, for every moment spent alone on the ranch emphasized just how much his absence affected her life. Little did she know that this very isolation would soon challenge them both in unexpected ways, drawing them back into each other's lives when they needed it most. One fateful afternoon, the calm of Oakwood Ranch was shattered by a call over Jake's radio, drawing him back to town. A string of thefts had been reported, and tension hung thick in the air as worried townsfolk looked to him for answers. He felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders, pushing aside his dreams of spending more time at the ranch with Emily. As he stood on the porch, gazing at the fields he loved, Jake faced a decision that tore at his heart. He knew that assisting with the investigation would pull him away from Emily and their cherished moments together. The sheriff's duty called to him louder than his desires, urging him to protect his community. With a heavy sigh, he turned away from the ranch, promising himself it would only be temporary. But deep down, he feared it might not be. That evening, as he drove toward town, memories of laughter and quiet chats filled his mind. He recalled how they would lay on the grass after long days, soaking in twilight while sharing their hopes and dreams. Each memory felt like a dagger as he realized just how much he was leaving behind. Jake knew that this choice would create distance between them, but he felt trapped by the demands of his job. He hoped Emily would understand, unaware that this difficult decision would alter the course of their lives and spark feelings of abandonment that neither could have anticipated. The days turned into weeks, and the absence of Sheriff Jake Tanner weighed heavily on both him and Emily. As Jake navigated the complexities of his job, he felt a gnawing emptiness inside him. Each time he donned his uniform, the badge felt heavier, a constant reminder of what he had left behind. Memories of Emily's laughter echoed in his mind, and during quiet moments, he found himself longing for the comfort of her presence. Yet, every time he tried to reach out, guilt washed over him. He was supposed to be protecting the town. Meanwhile, Emily found herself wandering the pastures alone, the vibrant colors of her surroundings dulled by her heartache. The ranch that once felt like home now felt like a hollow shell without Jake. Each sunrise reminded her of their shared morning rituals, and as she tended to her chores, feelings of abandonment crept in. Why hadn't he chosen to stay? Did he not care enough about their bond? Confusion gnawed at her heart as she replayed their last conversations, searching for signs of what went wrong. As the moon rose high on lonely nights, the darkness outside mirrored her emotions. She had always believed they were meant to be together, but now doubt seeped in. Would Jake ever realize just how much she needed him? Little did they both understand that their hearts were still intertwined, despite the distance between them. The emotional impact of their separation was shaping their paths, leading them toward a reckoning neither could foresee. One stormy evening, dark clouds rolled over Oakwood Ranch, bringing heavy rain and fierce winds that rattled the windows of Emily's house. As she looked out at the swelling creek that ran alongside her land, panic set in. The water was rising dangerously close to the pastures, threatening to flood her fields and possibly damage the livestock. With no time to lose, she grabbed her phone and tried to reach Jake, but there was no answer. His work had him far away. As the rain intensified, Emily's heart raced. She knew she could handle many things on the ranch, but battling nature's fury alone felt overwhelming. Memories flooded her mind of Jake standing beside her during other storms, their teamwork always making tough situations easier to bear. She cursed the distance between them. If only he were here now. Desperate for help, Emily decided to reach out to the local community. She called neighbors, asking for assistance with securing the livestock and sandbagging vulnerable areas of the property. But as she worked tirelessly through the night, the fear of losing everything she loved loomed over her. Meanwhile, back in town, Jake received word about the terrible storm hitting Oakwood Ranch. Instinctively, he felt a surge of urgency wash over him. He realized he needed to go back, not just as a sheriff but as someone who still deeply cared for Emily. Without another moment's thought, he grabbed his hat and rushed out into the storm, determined to return to her before it was too late. As the storm began to subside, the first light of dawn broke through the clouds, casting a soft glow over the drenched ranch. Emily stood outside, her heart racing as she saw Jake's familiar silhouette approaching through the mist. Relief washed over her, yet at the same time, anger bubbled to the surface. How could he just leave her to fend for herself when she needed him most? When Jake reached her, she felt a rush of emotions. Memories of their childhood warmth and shared dreams mixed with the bitterness of his absence. "You came back," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, but it wavered with the weight of unresolved feelings. "I had to," Jake replied earnestly, his brow furrowed with concern as he surveyed the damage around them. "I heard about the flooding. I was worried about you." Emily's gaze dropped to the ground, her heart torn between relief to see him and frustration for all the moments they lost. "You left me here, Jake. I was scared and alone," she admitted, the hurt spilling out as tears threatened to form in her eyes. "I didn't want to leave," he insisted, taking a step closer, his expression softening. "I thought you'd be safe, that I'd be back quickly." The tenderness in his voice pierced through her anger, igniting a flicker of hope. They stood there in silence, both knowing that their past bond still pulsed beneath their conflict. It was a moment filled with unspoken words, where love and frustration intertwined, waiting for them to confront what had been left unsaid. As they worked together to clean up the aftermath of the storm, tension crackled in the air between Emily and Jake. Each shared task seemed to reignite their unresolved feelings, with every glance lingering a moment too long and every brush of their hands sending shivers down their spines. But beneath that spark lay the weight of their complicated history, a blend of fond memories and fresh wounds. While stacking hay bales, Emily's frustration boiled over. "You think you can just come back and fix everything?" she snapped, her voice sharp with emotion. "I managed fine without you. I didn't need you then, and I don't need you now." Jake paused, surprised by her outburst. "I didn't come back to take over your life, Emily," he said, his tone firm yet hurt. I came back because I care about you, about this ranch. But care isn't enough, she shot back, crossing her arms defensively. You left when I needed you most, Jake. What makes you think things can just go back to how they were? The air hung heavy with unspoken words, leaving them both silent for a moment. Jake felt anger rising but quickly buried it under a wave of regret. I made mistakes, he admitted quietly. I thought my duties were more important than being there for you. Emily softened slightly at his words, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. Yet the ghost of her anger remained, a reminder of the hurt he had caused, and she wondered if they could ever truly bridge the gap that had formed between them. Those moments of tension illuminated the fragility of their relationship, revealing that love alone might not be enough to mend what was broken. As they worked in silence after their argument, memories flooded through Emily's mind, like snapshots of happier times before life's complications began to weigh on them. She recalled summer evenings when she and Jake would sit by the old oak tree at the edge of the ranch, watching fireflies light up the dusk. Jake had always had a way of making her laugh, telling silly jokes and finishing her sentences as if they were two halves of the same whole. One particularly vivid memory surfaced. A warm afternoon spent riding horses across the fields, wind rushing through their hair as they raced toward the horizon. They had felt invincible then, free from worries and the expectations that would later come crashing into their lives. Emily remembered glancing over at Jake, his smile wide as he encouraged her to go faster, urging her to push past her fears. In those moments, she had believed they could conquer anything together. But as time passed, those carefree years faded into a backdrop for unfulfilled promises. She felt a pang in her heart as she realized just how much she missed those innocent days. Despite all the hurt from his departure, those cherished memories still connected them. Each laugh, every shared dream solidified a bond not easily broken. As Jake glanced at Emily, he, too, remembered those bright days, understanding that the affection they had for each other still lingered beneath the weight of misunderstanding. He saw her not just as the ranch owner facing trials alone, but as his childhood friend and the girl who once made his heart race with excitement. Just as Emily and Jake began to find common ground, an urgent situation arose that would force them to rely on one another once more. The rising waters from the storm had caused damage to the barn, and a sudden flash flood warning echoed over the radio. With rain still drizzling down, Emily realized the animals needed to be moved immediately to higher ground before disaster struck again. "Jake, we have to save the livestock," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with determination and fear. Jake nodded, his sheriff instincts kicking in, but he could see the worry etched on Emily's face. "Let's do this together," he said, stepping forward with purpose. They quickly gathered their tools and saddled up horses, both aware that teamwork was essential if they were going to make it in time. As they rode side by side through the muddy terrain, an unexpected sense of unity formed between them. Jake shouted instructions while Emily navigated the way through the oppressive weather, her focus sharp. They worked seamlessly to round up the cattle and lead them toward safety, their past grievances momentarily forgotten in the face of this pressing crisis. Once they reached dry land, panting and soaked yet relieved, their eyes met, and a newfound respect blossomed in the silence. They had successfully faced a challenge together, reminding them both of their strengths as partners, professionally and personally. In that moment of triumph, they realized that rebuilding trust and teamwork might be the key to healing their fractured relationship. After the chaos of the flood, Emily and Jake found themselves sitting on the porch of the ranch as twilight descended. The air was filled with a sense of calm, yet unspoken words hung between them like a fragile thread. As they watched the sun dip below the horizon, Emily turned to Jake, her heart racing. "Thank you for coming back," she began softly, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't realize how much I needed you until it was almost too late." Jake looked at her, his eyes reflecting regret and longing. "I should have never left you alone like that," he admitted, his tone heavy with sincerity. "You mean more to me than I ever let on." The vulnerability in his words struck a chord within her. "I felt abandoned," she confessed, tears welling in her eyes. "It hurt to think that you chose your job over us." I thought I was doing the right thing, he replied, reaching out to grasp her hand gently. But now I see that my choices pushed you away. I've missed you every single day. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their shared history lift just a little. She realized that despite everything, every argument and every moment of silence, they had never truly moved on from each other. Maybe we can start fresh, she said cautiously, hope flickering in her heart. A smile broke across Jake's face as he nodded. Together. In that moment, they both understood that healing would take time, but their enduring bond could guide them forward into a future where love could flourish once again.